What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing an Odion Genesys format deck profile. So I'm really excited to do some for you guys because this deck is an amazing deck to play in Genesys format to be able to control the board. And this deck has a deck cost of 95. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're playing 3 copies of the Man with the Mark. The Man with the Mark is definitely a 3-of in the build and the best normal summon in the entire build, with the ability, and if this card is normal or special summon, you can take a Temple of the Kings or a spell or trap card that mentions it from the deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. Also, while you control Temple of the Kings, this card and Apophis monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects, and Temple of the Kings you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. We then play 3 copies of Anubis the Last Judge. Anubis is definitely a 3-of because this card can instantly search out your copy of the Man with the Mark and also can help you recycle your resources while summoning out a 3000 attack point monster. With the ability it cannot be normal summoner set, it must first be special summoned from your hand to the graveyard while you have 3 or more cards in the graveyard with different names that are Temple of the Kings or trap cards by placing 2 of them on the bottom of the deck in any order. You can also send this card from your hand to the graveyard to add the Man with the Mark from your deck to your hand, which is the main effect we use on this card to get our deck rolling. This card also has the ability if a spell or trap card you control is destroyed by a card effect, you can target 1 card that your opponent controls and destroy it, which is an amazing ability. We then play a single copy of Merciless Scorpion of Serket. This card is a really cool 1-of in the deck and a key combo piece in the build. It has the ability it cannot be normal summoner set, it must first be special summoned from your hand by banishing a level 10 or higher monster from the hand or the deck, while you control a Temple of the Kings, which is not that big of a deal because you can easily banish your copy of Anubis the Last Judge or Lord of the Heavenly Prison to summon this card out to your side of the field. Also, this card is an amazing search effect that once returned during your main phase, you can add a Temple of the Kings or a spell card that mentions it from your deck to your hand, which is a pretty cool effect. And also, at the start of the damage step, and this card battles an opponent's monster, you can destroy that opponent's monster, and if you do, this card gains attack equal to half the destroyed monster's original attack, which is a crazy powerful effect. We then play 2 copies of Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Lord of the Heavenly Prison is great as a 2-of in the build to basically just use this card in the deck to be able to protect our back row and get to the exact spell or trap card that we need. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get in to the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Temple of the Kings. Temple of the Kings is a key combo piece in the deck that has the ability you can activate 1 trap card at the turn it was set, which is an amazing ability to be able to use. We then play 3 copies of Treasures of the King. Treasures of the Kings is amazing to be able to play in this build, and this card is an amazing field spell that when this card is activated, you can send Apophis Trap from your deck. And this card's name becomes Temple of the Kings while it's in the field zone. And once per turn, if you have 2 or more set cards on your field or a trap card in your graveyard, you can add a monster that mentions Temple of the Kings from your deck to your hand, which is a great ability to be able to use to instantly grab the exact card that you need. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. Pot of Extravagance is great in this build to basically just use this card to help us dig in the deck for the exact cards that we need, as we don't really need that much of our X deck except for a copy of Divine Serpent of Apophis. We then play 3 copies of Ultimate Slayer. Ultimate Slayer is great as a 3-of to basically just spot remove your opponent's monsters, as this card is a great ability that your opponent cannot activate monster effects in response to this card's activation, and you can send a monster from your X deck to the graveyard to target a monster your opponent controls with the same card type as a Fusion, Synchro, or XZ monster and shuffle it in the deck, as we do not have Pendulums or Link monsters in this format. We then play 3 copies of Super Polymerization. Super Poly is great to be able to play in the build because we have so much room in our X deck to be able to use this card to break our opponent's board. And this is the first point card in the entire deck with a point cost of 10. And this card is such a cool 3-of in the build to basically just break your opponent's board, and it's just amazing to be able to use in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Sudden Thunder Swamp. Sudden Thunder Swamp is amazing in this build as a 3-of and helps out so much in this deck to be able to play, as this card has the ability that when this card is activated, you get to discard a card, and if you do, set a continuous trap from your deck or the graveyard with an effect that special summons itself as a monster except the discarded card, which is an amazing ability to instantly get to any of our trap monsters that we need. Also, if a card you control is destroyed by a battle by card effect and sent to the graveyard or banished face up, you can target one of them and add a card with the same name from your deck to your hand, but you can only use this effect of this card once per turn, and you can only activate one of this card per turn, but it's such a powerful 3-of in the build to instantly get to our trap monsters. So, that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get in to the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Verdict of Anubis. Verdict is crazy good in this build, but this card has the ability that when your opponent activates a spell or trap card, while you control 3 or more other spell or trap cards, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Then if you control a Temple of the Kings, you can destroy as many monsters that your opponent controls as possible, then inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the total original attack of those destroyed monsters, doing some insane amount of burn damage, board wiping your opponent, and also using this card as a negate. We then play a single copy of Destructive Durham Karma Cannon. This card is an amazing 1-of in the build and helps out a lot in this deck to basically just flip all of your opponent's monsters face down. And this card is actually another point card with it having a point cost of 5. And this card is just amazing because it actually affects the player and not the monsters. So if your opponent has a towers-like boss monster, it's unaffected by card effects and it cannot be flipped face down, it'll actually make your opponent send that face of monster to the graveyard, as this card affects the player and not the monsters. We play a single copy of Statue of Anguish Pattern. Statue of Anguish Pattern is great to be able to play in this build because this card helps you pop multiple cards on the field and is actually a trap monster with the ability that you can special summon this card as an effect monster. It's a rock, earth, level 7 with 0 attack and 2500 defense, and it's still treated as a trap card, and if summoned this way, this card cannot be targeted by an opponent's card effect while you control another trap card that is a monster. And if a card is special summoning your spell and trap card zone to a monster zone, basically one of your trap monsters, while this card's a monster, you can target one card on the field and destroy it, which is not a once per turn effect. We then play a single copy of the original embodiment of Apophis. This card is so cool to be able to play and just such a nostalgic card to be able to play in this deck that special summons itself to your side of the field as a reptile earth level 4 with 1600 attack and 1800 defense, and it's still treated as a trap card. We then play 3 copies of Apophis the Serpent. This card is amazing as a 3-of as well, and this card is just so good to be able to play in this build, and this card is able to special summon this card as a normal monster that's a reptile earth level 4 with 1600 attack and 1800 defense, and it's still treated as a trap card. Then you can send a Apophis trap directly from your deck, except another copy of this card, and it can be activated this turn. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can actually add an embodiment of Apophis from your deck to your hand, instantly grabbing the original, which is super cool, but you can only use the effect of this card once per turn. We then play 3 copies of Apophis the Swamp Deity. This card is crazy powerful in this deck and so good to be able to play, as this card has the ability during the main phase you can special summon this card as a normal monster that's a reptile earth level 6 with 2000 attack and 2200 defense, and it's still treated as a trap card. Then you can negate the effects of face-up cards your opponent controls up to the number of other continuous trap cards you control until the end of this turn, making this card a massive negate on the field, which is absolutely amazing. We then play 3 copies of Dominus Purge. Dominus Purge is absolutely insane in this deck, and this card is actually another point card, with this card having a point value of 10 each. With this card having an insane ability, it's basically an Ash Blossom for the deck, but it does lock us out of dark, water, and fire monsters for the rest of the duel if we do activate this card from our hand, which is not that big of a deal because we basically focus on using earth monsters primarily in this build, but it's still really good to be able to set this card to avoid that effect. We then play 3 copies of Songs of the Dominators. Songs of the Dominators is an amazing 3-of as well, since we are a trap-based strategy. And this card is a really cool ability that if you have no monster in the graveyard, you can activate this card from your hand. And this card is also another point card that has a point value of 10. When this card is so good to be able to play, because when your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, you negate that effect. Then if you have a trap card in your graveyard, you can add a Dominus card from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool ability because this card can actually add your copy of Dominus Purge from your deck to your hand. And if you activate this card from the hand, you cannot activate the effects of monsters in your hand, graveyard, or banishment until the end of the next turn, which is again not that big of a deal in the deck because you can always set this card to your side of the field. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get in to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with 3 copies of Divine Serpent Apophis. This card is such a powerful boss monster in the deck and so easy to summon in this build. With this card requiring 2 monsters that mention Temple of the Kings to make this card, and it must either be fusion summoned or special summoned by attributing it to Apophis monsters on your side of the field. And once per turn, you can target up to 3 Apophis traps with different names in the graveyard and set them, which is why I actually love playing all 3 of the different Apophis traps in this build. This card also has the ability once per turn, if a trap card is activated, except during the damage step, you can target 1 card that your opponent controls and destroy it. We then play 2 copies of Garrigus. Garrigus is an amazing 2-of in the build to basically just use this card as a super poly target, and it's just a good option in this deck. We then make a single copy of Mud Dragon. Mud Dragon is also a great super poly target in this deck to be able to basically use in this build. We then play a single copy of Golden Cloud Beast. Golden Cloud Beast is really good to use as an ultimate slayer target alongside our copy of Garrigus and our copies of Aggregator in this build, just to basically spot remove either Fusion, Synchro, or XZ monsters off the field. And this card is really good because when this card actually touches the graveyard, you get to target a face-up card your opponent controls and return it back to the hand. We then play a single copy of Time Thief Redoer. It's very easy to put trap cards under this card, so you can use this effect to place a face-up card your opponent controls on top of the deck. We then play a single copy of Tornado Dragon. Tornado Dragon is great in this deck to help you pop your opponent's back row. We play a single copy of Evil Sworn Exciton Knight. Exciton Knight is great just to board wipe the field, just in case you need to. We play a single copy of M7. M7 is great to help you recover cards out of the graveyard, and just an awesome 1-of in the build that once per turn, you can detach an XZ material from this card to target a monster on the field or in either player's graveyard and return that target back to the hand. We then play 2 copies of Evil Czar Lars. Lars is amazing to be able to play in this deck to basically just use this card as a negate, as while this card has a material, your opponent cannot target it with monster effects, and when your opponent activates a card effect, quick effect, you can detach 2 materials on this card, or just 1 if all this card's materials are reptile or dinosaur, and then target 1 face-up card your opponent controls and negate its effects until the end of the turn. We then also play 2 copies of Aggregator to round out the deck. This card is amazing to be able to play as an ultimate slayer target, as if this card does touch the graveyard, you get to target a card on the field and negate effects, which is super cool to be able to do, and just a really cool 2-of in the deck to basically just use this card as an ultimate slayer target. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to play in Genesys format because you have so many cool plays that you can actually go into, just easily controlling the board with all of your awesome trap cards using this deck. And it's amazing to be able to play in Genesys format just to be able to control the board. So that's it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely comment down below what other decks you would like to see in Genesys format on the channel, because I'd love to hear from you guys. So that's it for this one, guys. We'll see you in the next video. See you later, guys.